Happy Valentine's Day. This is our live stream, and we're going to be answering questions about yet another storm moving into Ontario, eventually Quebec and Atlantic Canada as well. This is back to back storms. People barely have had time to shovel out before the next one moves in this weekend. I'm going to introduce my co-host for this special. I'll move over here. We've got Mark Robinson, our storm hunter, outside. We've got Jacqueline Whittle, meteorologist, and she will be covering this storm from a weather map angle, taking a look at where the storm is, where it's going, and the timing of all of that. And I'll check in with both of you in just a moment, so just stand by. Again, we're talking about the third storm in a week. There was a storm before that as well for some. And again, the snow is piling up. The temperatures haven't really warmed up to melt a whole lot of that snow, and that has become problematic. Now, someone who knows this firsthand is Mark Robinson, who is in Guelph right now. And Mark, this is, again, one of the places, and I know in Hamilton where I am, the snow is piling up on the sides of the streets. It's getting more and more difficult to maneuver, whether you're on foot or in a car.
Yeah, Kim, I had to drop Bree, get my daughter off to school earlier today. And just getting around some of the smaller side streets by the school was next to impossible, just because they weren't plowed yet. The plows are still working away, and all the snow is sort of piled a little bit on the road. So just trying to get two cars past where normally it's not a problem at all, that became a bit of a nightmare. For me, shoveling, I've been shoveling out. I shoveled my mom's place in Toronto. There's good 20 centimeters of snow from that last storm. Then I got here to Guelph and had to shovel another 20 centimeters of snow out of here. And now we're looking at considerably more. So, I mean, I'm getting a workout, but I'm kind of done with winter. Can I just use weights instead of the massive amount of snow, please?
I think a lot of people would prefer to do that right now, but I think that shoveling is the workout, and that's just Canadians trying to be optimistic. Mark will check back in with you in a moment. Let's go over now to Jacqueline Whittle, who has been watching this storm as it again creeps towards the Great Lakes. It's going to be a bit of a 1-2 punch. The first part of the storm, Jacqueline, not quite as intense, and people may get a false sense of security before the second round.
That's right, Kim. We're talking about a 1-2 punch kind of storm. So maybe Mark Robinson can do some training, some boxing training. I don't know. Maybe that'll help him.
Good plan.
Let's get into it, and we'll show you what we mean by 1-2 punch. We are looking at a Colorado low. This is big picture, right? So this is the system that really hasn't even developed yet. But as it gets closer to the Great Lakes, it really intensifies, and it could mean severe weather stateside. It could mean a messy mix for some along the lakes, and it'll mean lots of snow, again, for the Great Lakes through Quebec and Atlantic Canada. And Atlantic Canada, we're watching you very closely because it's going to be a mess likely by the time it gets to the East Coast. Now, we're still ahead of this event, Kim, so we're really going to just sort of take this hour by hour and talk to you about what you can expect. Of course, submit your questions. We'll do our best to answer them. But, some people, let's say you're living in Essex County, your snow is going to begin in the early morning hours of Saturday. And it's not going to be terribly heavy. We're looking at about 1 centimeter per hour. And it's going to be light and fluffy snow to start. Then we get on through the day. We're looking at about noon now, and then into the afternoon. You can see there's widespread snow up and down the 401 corridor all the way to Montreal by this point. But it's light in nature. Then we might even get a slight bit of a lull by the overnight time period. And people might say, what storm? What are they talking about? This was not a big deal. It is going to be a big deal because that's the one punch. The second punch is the next day, and that's going to be overnight into Sunday morning. Notice where you can see the darker blue shades here right along the 401 corridor and into downtown Toronto. That's where we're going to be seeing 1 to 3 centimeters per hour, not to mention winds will be blowing and drifting that snow throughout the day. So Sunday is really the day at this point. And notice here, another thing to draw your attention to, Kim, is we see some pink here along Lake Erie. We see some pink south of Lake Ontario as well. The idea that warmer air will be moving a little bit further north on Sunday. So what that means is heavy snow, but heavy, or I should say heavy snow in terms of the snowfall rates, but also heavy. So Mark's really going to get his workout that day. But all kidding aside, make sure you do use your knees, not your back, and, lend a helping hand to a neighbor maybe that, can't get out and do the shoveling. I know folks in Ontario are trying to figure out where are we going to put this snow at this stage when we have so much. By the time we get into the later part of Sunday, at least for southern Ontario, we will start to see some breaks and a bit of catch up into Monday, Kim. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at, it's another big one. And this is the third storm, in 8 days?
Yeah, it's not great where you don't have anywhere to put that snow. You were talking about the ice. Ice is starting to build up in places like Halifax. We saw that with Nathan Coleman if you're watching him earlier or online. And it's icy as well around the Niagara region where we tend to get this freezing rain or these ice pellets mixing in with the snow. And that means it's hard to stay upright and the hospitals are getting busy. Here's Michael Van with an interview with a local doctor in Hamilton.
Winter can be a treacherous time just to step outside, and of course that's all thanks to these snow and ice conditions. One local hospital has reported dozens of injuries just since the beginning of February, and they're sounding the alarm to keep residents informed.
After a snowfall, it gets relatively treacherous outside. So, there's ice and snow on the ground. As I'm sure everybody knows, there's often ice then covered by snow, so you can't actually see the ice. And also the footing becomes much more unstable. We see an increase in musculoskeletal injuries, typically from people falling down. And so at the beginning of February, the site that tends to get most of our hip fractures had 1 week where I think we had 25 hip fractures in 1 week, which is a fair number for us. Some of the things that we talk about is that, try to, if you can, land on your bum is often the best place to land. It's relatively padded. It's very easy to want to stick out your hand to try and prevent yourself from falling. That may not be the best thing to do because you can often break your wrist when you do that.
Of course, I think the main takeaway from all of this is to make certain that you're taking extra precaution through these cold weather months to shovel the snow and ice and make certain that any areas that you are walking are clear. You just don't want to take that chance. And of course, if you have anyone vulnerable around you, you can always offer to give them assistance and shoveling as well, and make certain that pathways are clear for them to help prevent a devastating injury like this.
Okay, there's our Michael Van. Back to our Mark Robinson. Mark, by this point in February, it's been so snowy across a lot of the province. You're thinking, okay, people are ready now at least. I think we've gone through a few storms, but it never hurts to remind people what they should have, especially if they're hitting the roads. I know it's a long weekend in Ontario coming up. We got Family Day on Monday, but travel's not going to be easy.
Yeah, Kim, that's exactly what I was about to bring up. Maybe as you can tell the evidence around me, I have all the different implements that we may need. Now, you were speaking about travel. I will be traveling. I'm actually headed up to the cottage near Bancroft, and that area looks to get a lot of snow. Some of the models have as much as 40 to 50 centimeters. I don't know if it's going to be quite that much, but either way, the travel is going to be nasty. So I want to take you through some of the stuff that I'm putting in the car. Now, as always, get your handy dandy brush. And I know I've got a whole bunch of extras here, but these are for the people that if you see me, ask for an extra snow brush. I've got a Weather Network one for you. If you happen to come by and see the car, I'm more than happy to hand one of those out in case you might need one for this weekend. That's just your regular stuff. Everybody should have one of those. This is the other thing that I carry with me all the time, and that's just a shovel. Real simple. It's just a gardening shovel. There's not much to it. It's small enough. It fits in the back of the car, no problem. But I cannot tell you, Kim, how many times I have used this shovel to either shovel myself or other people out of seriously sticky situations. In the last storm that we had, I was in Toronto, like down, 427 and 401, and we had stuck cars all over the place because people were trying to take an exit, and there might be a little windrow on that exit, and they immediately get stuck. And you're on the 401. I mean, it's not exactly an untraveled area. That can be a big problem even there. But if you got a shovel with you, you can get yourself potentially out fairly quickly. Especially if you're, say, on a smaller road. I'm not necessarily going to recommend you jump out on the 401 and start trying to dig yourself out. Best thing to do there, stay in your car, give either the emergency line or 911 a call just to get out of there. You want to keep, if you're on the 401, keep as much metal around you as possible. Keep your seatbelt on. But if you are on some of the smaller roads, need to, potentially get yourself dug out because it's not busy. A shovel is extremely useful. Whittle, and I will tell you about the rest of the things in my car in next time we speak, because there's a big list, Kim.
Okay, and I want to hear all of it. And I wish I had had a shovel in my car the other day when I stayed at a hotel and they didn't plow the parking lot. I did have a friendly stranger push me out, which was great, but I was like, I should have had a shovel, and I know that. And next time, I will know better. Jacqueline Whittle has been covering this storm as well from the inside, looking at the maps and what's happening. We've got a couple of questions, Jacqueline. Someone's interested in wanting to know about New York City and whether or not the storm will hit NYC. And someone else wanted to know about North Bay, and will this storm impact North Bay at all?
Okay, I'll get to both of those questions. Excellent questions. Keep them coming. And by the way, I know what is in Mark Robinson's car. He always eats sun chips when we're chasing storms. So ask him if there's sun chips in his car. Probably. Let's go to the snow accumulation by date. We are now above average for the season, 94 centimeters of snow for the 2024-2025 season. And by the way, this is the third storm in just about 8 days, putting potentially Toronto at his third snowiest February on record. With this next storm, could even make us the top 2, and we still have like 14 days of February to go. So could we, have the snowiest February on record? We're going to be keeping you posted on that. Let's talk to you folks in North Bay first before I go stateside. We do have about 10 to 20 centimeters in our forecast for this storm. But the interesting part of this, Kim, is that most of the heaviest snow is going to be south of that area. And that's simply, I'll show you why. That's because we're on sort of the northern edge of the storm. So I'll just zoom that out like this. So let's just go to the peak of the storm. We'll show you Saturday first. Okay, so Sudbury, North Bay, Thunder Bay, you're all kind of on the outer edges of the entire system, which, if I zoom out, look at how large the storm system is. But so it's going to be less snow to the north, and then watch as it really intensifies in extreme southern Ontario for Sunday. So yeah, North Bay, you are going to get some snow, but not nearly as much as Windsor, which is weird, right? Because that's not normally the way it goes. We have Kingston and Montreal on Sunday afternoon, heavy bands of snow for you too. And then all of this moving to Atlantic Canada Sunday into Monday, and it's going to be a mess. So somebody asked about the Big Apple. Let's go down stateside and just sort of time this out for you and show you what type of precipitation you will likely get. And then also I'm going to talk about the severe weather risk with this Colorado low stateside, because it's pretty intense. So there you go. Saturday afternoon, just rolling this backwards now, you can see the outer edges of this low pressure system moving in to the New York City metro area, 3 p.m. And then you can see south of Philly, it's probably going to be rain and kind of a mess. And then that will transition north. That warm air, the warm sector will lift to the north. So New York City switching over to ice pellets and even freezing rain, and then even rain by the overnight. So notice that warm air mixing in. Now, there's quite a few flood alerts that are going to be probably issued south of the border, because look at these reds that are coming up on this weather model by the time we're into Sunday. Like, we're a very moisture-laden storm. So now let's transition to kind of big picture here. So again, the storm really hasn't developed yet. It's going to be developing over the next 12 hours or so. But I want to just show you the cold front, the blue line that you can see attached to the area of low pressure. That's where things get very dangerous, really, stateside. And that's not that uncommon this time of year. We do see severe weather down in the, the Gulf states, basically. So we're talking about an enhanced risk. That's the orange category, third highest on the storm prediction convective outlook, Storm Prediction Center convective outlook. What this means is the potential for damaging winds, hail, potential for tornadoes. This includes parts of Mississippi as far north as Tupelo, and then east, Kim, into Alabama. So there is the potential for some severe weather. And again, we see this, in the winter season. We often see it in the transition seasons in October, November as well.
Yeah, we saw it with the last storm as well in Mississippi. There were several tornado warnings and at least one reported on the ground. So yeah, this typical this time of year. Interesting tornado warnings likely stateside, whereas we're getting more likely snowfall warnings, perhaps even winter storm warnings again with this particular Colorado low. So with back-to-back storms in the city of Toronto, obviously the city is clogged already. You start getting this much snow. What is the city going to do about it? Michael Van spoke to one of the guys in charge.
This is a very common scene across the city of Toronto this week as everyone digs out from this week's epic snowstorm with another system just around the corner. A lot of people are concerned with what's the city going to do with this much snow. I had a chance to catch up with officials earlier today in an effort to get an idea of what the plan is throughout the weekend.
Over the weekend, we will assess how much more of our snow infrastructure can actually accommodate, can store the snow, and then determine the magnitude of snow removal that we will be undertaking early next week. So as a result, you will see rather large snow windrows, those are those piles, as a result of the ongoing plowing that we'll be doing over the weekend. And beginning next week, we will be collecting the snow off of the right-of-way, off of a boulevard, off of a road, off of a cycling infrastructure, putting them into dump trucks, and then transporting them to our snow dumps that we have across the city.
Of course, if this forecast does verify, that is a lot of snow that the city is going to be dealing with. So I think the main message here is, although the city assures everyone that they are ready to tackle that amount of snow, to stay patient while those clearing and removal operations are taking place.
Okay, some good advice there. Mark Robinson, you know, the problem with this particular winter, I mean, if you love snow, there's no problem with this winter, but it's that it's so cold. So we'll have winters where it's mild, you'll get some snow, it'll melt, you'll get another snowstorm, and it just doesn't feel that bad. But when the snow doesn't go away, it's problematic, and temperatures are expected to really drop on Monday for Family Day, and you have there everything outfitted in your car. For instance, if someone, get stalled on the side of the road, it's freezing cold out there. I mean, what do you need in your vehicle ahead of time to prepare for worst case scenario?
Kim, worst case scenario is being stuck somewhere and having to get out of the car, having to, even something simple like, transferring yourself from your car over to, say, a police car or a tow truck or something like that. If you're wearing high heels because you happen to be going to the office, imagine just walking through the snow and that. So what I pack into my car, I don't usually have my high heels in the car, but I do have extra boots as well. I have extra jacket. That's my big heavy parka, and another jacket just in case. Like once you get wet, if you get one of these jackets wet, it just becomes that much more miserable. Stuff that you may not need, but I always carry with me because I have literally slept in the car before. There's my winter. That is actually my Arctic sleeping bag. I have literally used that in the Arctic. I slept in the car on the Arctic Circle a few years ago. So definitely that will keep you warm. These are worst case scenario type of equipment. I'm not going to say that you are going to need that, but even simple trips, if you think of going over to the grocery store, going to pick up the kids, going to work, you get stuck. Now you're sitting there for hours, and if you haven't got, say, an extra jacket, maybe a shovel, and something warm to wrap around you like a blanket, it's just going to be that much more miserable. If you've got this stuff, now you have options, and I think that's the biggest thing. If you have options, that allows you to get yourself to maybe a warmer spot or just make yourself more comfortable. But Kim, that is just some stuff. I'm still got more stuff to go, and we're going to be talking about this stuff next time we chat.
I know. You're not a hoarder. You need all this stuff. The thing is that it's better to have too much and not need it than to not have enough and then need it. I'm going to go back now to Jacqueline Whittle. Jacqueline, Montreal, Ottawa both got slammed with the last storm, even more snow than Pearson. We were talking about Pearson having just over 26 centimeters. That was the most snow in about 3 years. Both Ottawa, both in Montreal, over 30 centimeters of snow with that Texas low only a few days ago. So people are asking, in Montreal, will this hit Montreal? And also, and I know you touched on this before, but people are just joining us as the live stream continues, and they're wondering about freezing rain in Ontario.
All excellent questions. Kim, before you go away, I just want to mention something here. Can we go, is it possible to go back to Kim? Let's just chat. Okay, 26 years ago, Kim,
Yep.
we had the Army brought in to downtown Toronto, right, to help with the snow. Do you remember that, 1999?
Yeah, I was working at the Weather Network, Jacqueline. So yes, I'm afraid to say it, but yes, I lived and worked through the Army situation in Toronto.
Okay, and so let's just talk about that before I let you go, Kim. It was 26 years ago. We had about 100 centimeters over a 14-day period with that storm. In the last, or several storms, I should say, accumulating to about 100 centimeters over 14 days. With this 8-day period, we're already at 60 to 70 centimeters with just these, the last 2 storms and then with the next storm. So it's pretty comparable. I don't know if the Army will be back, but just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking the same thing. I think it was 3 storms that brought 100 centimeters of snow. There was nowhere for them to put it any longer. I think probably the city of Toronto has learned some lessons since that. We don't get that very often, so it doesn't happen. But I think the city is likely more prepared now than they were back in 1999 for this kind of scenario. But yeah, we're right back on the storm track. The jet stream's going right over southern Ontario, and this is the situation we're in.
You bet. And you brought up a great point. I just want to show the temperature trend, because something that Kim had mentioned a little earlier was there's been no signs of any melting, and we're still not looking at any signs of melting over the next 14-day period. We're going to be below 0. And so Kim's right. I mean, there's several winters where we'll get a dumping, particularly like, major lake effect snow. I mean, let's not forget Gravenhurst and the state of emergency that we saw, months ago now. We haven't really had much of an opportunity to melt any of this snow throughout the season. So now piling on an additional 30 plus centimeters in parts of the GTA, no chance of melting. I mean, these snowbanks are going to be big. And that's another safety point. I'm sure we could all speak to this. Kids out walking by snowbanks, maybe you can't see them coming around the corner, maybe you're backing out of your driveway and you've got snow blowers and people doing all kinds of snow clearing. Take it easy out there, take it slow, because there's a lot of people still trying to get around, especially on city streets, dogs being walked, etc. So here it is. This is hot off the press here at the Weather Network. It's a big deal. Someone had asked about Metro Montreal. Let me just talk to you in Montreal, and I'll time out the system for you as well. Let's go here. So we are looking ahead to 3 p.m. on Saturday. That's when the leading edge of the storm basically will start to move into Metro Montreal, and it'll just be light. And then as we get into Sunday morning, now we're about 9 p.m., that's when we could get into the heavier snow amounts, and especially just south into the eastern townships. That's where we're really going to see heavy, wet snow. Metro Montreal, same deal for you. But this is the type of snow, particularly on Sunday. People are asking, are we going to see ice? This is not looking like an ice storm really for anyone except maybe the Maritimes. We're going to get to them in a second because there is more mild air mixing in by the time the storm gets there. I'll come back with that. But let's just go back to like Ontario, for example. And you're pretty well all snow. So we start the day, we're about 2 a.m. on Saturday. So overnight Friday into the early morning hours, we do have heavy snow. But it's not going to be as heavy as it is Sunday. In fact, it'll be light and fluffier. If you are doing some shoveling on Saturday, you're going to say, this isn't too bad, this is all right. And then we might even get a bit of a lull in the precipitation overnight. But notice here, as I zoom out, that rain is getting awfully close to areas like Cleveland, Ohio, and Erie, Pennsylvania, Erie, not Pennsylvania. Yes, Erie, Pennsylvania. Sorry, having a moment there. We've got 1 a.m. on Sunday, and that is when things get really heavy and dense. That's where the snow is going to be falling at 1 to 3 centimeters per hour, Kim, and it is going to be heavy, wet snow right up and down the 401 corridor. Shout out to my parents who are on their way flying back from a beautiful Punta Cana trip. Maybe you have gone stateside and you're coming back to this massive winter storm. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks because we're looking at 20 to 30 centimeters, Kim, up and down the 403, the 401, 30 plus centimeters for parts of the GTA.
Okay, and when I come back, I'm going to chat with you about the odds of taking off out of Pearson Airport on Sunday. So that'll be my next question for you. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm not a betting woman. I don't know that I would bet against it. But we'll be back with that in just a moment. Let's talk about travel, but on the roads. Mark Robinson knows how to travel in a snowstorm, in any kind of severe weather. That's what he does. He's a storm hunter. He and Matt DiNicolantonio got together for this little piece on driving in severe weather.
As we roll through winter, we want to keep in mind some tips and tricks or best practices for winter driving. So we have our storm chaser, Mark Robinson, here to help us out. Summer storm chasing, very different than winter storm
Very
chasing.
different.
Have their own hazards, but
Oh, yeah.
what are some important things to remember to be safe when driving in winter
Get
conditions?
your winter tires on. I'm gonna throw that out right away. I always thought there was, it was a bit of a cash grab thing. When I put on winter tires, there is a significant difference between summer tires and winter tires when you're dealing with the snow, and that's to be expected. But how much of a difference was kind of surprising to me. The other thing I'm going to say right off the bat is slow down. Don't go out into your car just because you're driving a 10-minute over to get groceries without winter gear. Because if somebody makes a mistake, something happens, not even you, somebody else makes a mistake, you end up stuck. Now you don't have a winter jacket on, you can't get out of the car to go anywhere. Even that 10 minutes, throw a jacket in the car. If you've got an extra jacket, throw that into the car. If you've got an extra shovel, throw that in. Some kitty litter for traction. I know that sounds weird, but a little bit of kitty litter can actually help get that little extra traction to get you, out of that little stuck situation.
As people head out for a winter commute, what should they be looking for in the forecast to prepare themselves?
Be prepared that it's going to take a long time to go somewhere if you have to go. If you can wait, just wait till the next day, wait till it passes by, clear everything out, and then you're fine. Take a look at what the forecast is for where you are, but also take a look at where your destination is. Take a look at the forecast for there. And if you've got snow in both places, be prepared. Right. But if it's like, it's clear here and clear here, you're probably going to be okay. So that is why I say take a look at the Weather Network and check out both places you're going.
Great advice as usual, Mark. I was just thinking about people like me who got a new puppy in a winter where it doesn't stop snowing. It's hard to take them out for a walk. I think of new moms and dads who are trying to take their babies outside for some fresh air. It's not easy to push a stroller in weather like this. But let's get back to prepping for this storm, because this is what this is all about, prepping ahead of, yet another low pressure system moving in. I was mentioning just a couple of days ago to Mark about bringing in your snow brush rather than keeping it in the car, so that when you come outside you can brush off your window and brush off your handle and then open the door, rather than having all the snow whoosh in, which can happen more often than not. But you've got a couple more tips about prepping now versus later.
Yeah, Kim, I love all the snow inside the car. I don't understand. No, I mean, to be a little bit serious, one of the things your car has a lot of inside. Oh boy, that my brain not functioning. It's cold out here. A lot of something in your car that you might not think about. So cars has a lot of different liquids inside of it. There's your one thing that I always make sure that I've got a little extra in is windshield wiper fluid. Very, very useful. I go through so much of this in the wintertime. I mean, it's partly because I'm shooting something, I'm shooting the road, so I got to have that nice clear windshield. But this is always something to have to make sure you... Make sure you got a topped up gas. One of the things we don't think about in winter storms, but can happen, is power outages. If the power goes out, I don't care how much gas is at that station, it's not getting into your car. I have spent more than a few times in hurricanes waiting for the power to come on, even though I know the gas station actually has gas. So it can happen in the wintertime. So I would suggest going out tonight, tomorrow morning, gas up the car. That way you don't have to worry. You've got it. You don't have to think, I have to run out there. Because the other half of it is if you have to add that gas station trip on the way out, because say you have to go to work, you have to go somewhere on Sunday. If you add the gas station, that's one more extra little side trip that may get you stuck. So you want to make sure everything's ready to go. Make sure the car's tuned up. Just take a quick look. How's the oil? How's transmission fluid? I know that's maybe a little bit of overkill, but it's always good to have the car in best working conditions, because I have worked on more than one car in the wintertime where I've had to peel brakes off, tires off. It's not fun. So if you've got everything ready to go, you're going to be that much better. But the best suggestion I can make is stay home. Just if you don't have to go anywhere, just enjoy staying inside on Sunday. It is family day. I know it's a big travel weekend, but this might be one of the family weekend where you can stay inside with your family. Kim?
Yeah, play some games. Hope you like your family too. You know, the thing is, Mark, with the gas you were mentioning, you could get stuck on the side of the road, and what you're going to want to do is run your car a little bit so you can warm up. And if your car is running, then yeah, you're going to run out of gas a little quicker. So that's another reason why you should have a full tank of gas. And you know, there was an interesting point that Carrie Schmidt had made with you the other day, which was, if you get in an accident or your car is off to the side of the road, he talked about don't get out no matter what you do. Do not get out of your car. But another thing is to have the seatbelt on and to have it running, because if you do get hit, worst case scenario, you get hit, your airbags will go off. So your car will treat you when it's running as if you're in a regular accident, as if you were driving yourself. So if you want the airbags, your safest bet is to wait with a seatbelt on and your car running. So I never thought about that before, but now I know it, and I wanted to share the wealth.
Yeah, Kim, you're absolutely right. I remember when I was in Fort Erie in the storm that I had to sleep in the back of the car. I had all my gear on, but I saw a bunch of people that were stuck at the gas station, and they had to walk over to the hotel that they were staying at, but they didn't have any winter gear. So they're walking, huddled up as best they can in like fleeces. The wind was 100 kilometers an hour plus. The wind chill was, I don't know, minus stupid. And they didn't have anything to keep themselves warm. Even that little bit of a trip, if it's cold enough, you can get frostbite. So like, it's just added extras. Make sure you've got all that stuff, and you should be okay. But yes, I do agree with you with the staying inside the car if you are in a situation, say on the 401, some of those bigger highways.
Yeah, it could be scary. Okay, Mark, we'll check back in with you in a moment. Let's go over to Jacqueline now. Jacqueline, a lot of people wanting to take off somewhere warm. We were talking about this. I don't know if you saw on social media with Wednesday night's storm and Thursday, the people in the airport. I saw at Pearson Airport, just people wondering if they were going to be able to take off. Montreal, there was over 100 delays. Pearson, 130 delays or cancellations. It wasn't great. So here we go again, and someone specifically has asked on the live stream whether or not they think that the flights will be taking off on Sunday, specifically at a Pearson Airport.
Yeah, great question. If only I had the answers, but I'm going to do my best to answer that, Kim, because Kim, you said you're not a betting woman, either am I, but if I was a betting woman, I would say that, yeah, through Sunday, it's going to be a day of delays, through Pearson Airport. I've just sort of highlighted approximately, this might be off a little bit, but where the airport sits, and we're sitting at about 25 plus centimeters according to our forecast right now. And that, of course, is the entire event. So really what it comes down to is the timing of the system, right? Because, we might get 25 centimeters, but if it all fell, well, Friday or Saturday, maybe by Sunday, it'll be okay at Pearson, but that's not going to be the case. This is going to be kind of like a 1-2 punch storm, but some people won't even know that it really let up. Like, it's just going to be a blur of a system. So let's just look at that, and we'll highlight Pearson a little bit more in particular. Here's the good news about the storm. Friday, today is your day to kind of get prepared, get all those items that Mark has been highlighting that you should have in your car. Or if a lot of people are headed up to the cottage or somewhere across Ontario for Family Day, here's some other good news. You can get there today without the storm, and you can get home after on the holiday Monday without the storm. Still be cleanup, but the bulk of the storm is going to be Saturday and Sunday. So let's just time it out for you, and we'll have Pearson in mind the whole time, okay? Because I know how frustrated it could be when your flight gets delayed. So basically, this is Saturday early morning. We've got light snow, including over Pearson Airport, right up and down the 401 corridor. By noon, the snow could be heavier. So yes, there could be some delays on Saturday, but then things let up, it looks like, according to the models. So a lot of people are going to say, well, that wasn't a big storm, no big deal, we're done with it. Don't let your guard down, because by the time we get into the overnight, well, you might get a bit of a lull, or you might see the snow lighten up. Watch, boom, that's what it looks like Sunday morning, 7 a.m. from Windsor through to London. So maybe London Airport could have delays. Pearson Airport, the Toronto Island Airport all could have delays. And it basically stays 1 to 3 centimeters an hour throughout the bulk of the morning hours and the afternoon hours for Sunday. So yeah, Pearson Airport, not looking like probably a great day for Sunday. So here's overall the big picture here. And by the way, thank you for your questions. Your questions are great. Keep them coming. Kim, Mark, and I will do our best to answer them. Up and down the 401, I mean, I grew up in Essex County in Amherstburg, Ontario. It is not every storm system that you see 25 centimeters. In fact, there's been several seasons where my father's like, oh, I didn't even bring out the snowblower. Make sure it's tuned up, Dad, because you're going to need it. 25 centimeters down the 401 right to the international border, and then up the 401, 20 to 30 centimeters, taking us into the GTHA. Hamilton area and the Niagara region, there is going to be, I guess, a slight chance of mixing in some of that mild air. We still have, well, from now till Sunday, time for this to change. But at this point, the models are suggesting, watch how, say, Long Point Beach gets into maybe some mixed precipitation by Saturday evening. In fact, the temperatures, Kim, kind of rare to be warming as we get into the overnight on Saturday. That's because the warm front is going to be lifting to the north. So, yeah, like you can see just south of Lake Erie, we're looking at the potential for rain. But yeah, that deformation zone is what we call it in the meteorological world, where we get those heavy bands of snow on the north side of the low. That's going to be delivering.
Yeah, with those warmer temperatures too, that's going to be some heavy wet snow at times when it's mixing in. And Jacqueline, when we come back, I have a couple questions for you from our viewers. How much lake enhancement could we get in Hamilton and the GTA? So not just the system itself, but is there a possibility of some lake effect streamers? I'll have you look at that now. And I wanted to mention too about the flights. It's not always just what's happening in Toronto, it's what's happening elsewhere across the US, across Canada. This is a big old storm and it's going to be impacting areas farther south. So sometimes these delays have a little bit of a domino effect. And it doesn't matter where you are, it might matter more where you're going, but Toronto Pearson is getting a lot of snow again, it looks like, so it could be problematic. I'm going to go over to our good friend Chris Murphy now to talk a little bit about the dangers of those growing snow piles.
They've been piling up all winter, and after weeks of storms and freezing conditions, they can reach dangerous heights. Snow piles. Given the size of some of these things, there's a good chance you'll be seeing them well into spring. And while playing on snowbanks is a common activity for many Canadian children, and let's face it, adults, there are some dangers hidden within. For example, snowbanks can obstruct vision when driving or walking. Typically, they shouldn't be higher than 3 meters in commercial zones and 2 meters in residential zones. But that's enough to block the view of oncoming traffic or other pedestrians. And while snow piles may look like solid mountains, they aren't always as sturdy as they look. Just because something looks like it can support your weight doesn't mean that it can. Some piles are propped up by air pockets or unstable snow, which can leave you susceptible to injury if you try to climb one. When a big snowstorm hits, crews rush out to clear the roads, leaving piles behind, which can obstruct the path to handicapped parking spots or entryways or critical services like fire hydrants. If you have a fire hydrant on your property, it's your responsibility to ensure it remains accessible. First responders recommend clearing a 1 meter perimeter around the hydrant and chipping away ice as it forms.
Okay, some good advice from Chris Murphy as those snow piles continue to grow and will grow even further with this next system coming in. I'm going to go over now to our storm hunter and his trusty little buddy, Hobbs. Mark, this is not an easy winter for dogs. I mean, if you've got a husky, I'm sure they're loving it, but for your little guys and girls, yeah, not so great.
Yeah, Kim, you missed me just before I got on air, literally tromping paths in the backyard for Hobbs here. But we've been talking a lot about travel and people that are traveling. We're talking about the car. I'm going to be doing some traveling. But for the people that are staying home and they've got pets, I mean, don't forget, they still need walks. So I'm going to give you a good close look up at Hobbs there. She's shivering just a little bit. I'm not sure if she's nervous or cold. Usually when I grab her like that, she thinks she's going to get taken to the VET. And instead she's just on air. But you can see Hobbs has actually got on her nice little coat right here, which is great for her. She did have to have a whole bunch of her fur chopped off just before winter, so she's been slowly growing it back, but she gets cold very, very easily. And one thing our trainer reminded us is that, dogs get quite, smaller dogs can get quite cold quite quickly. So you have to be careful. So, one of the things that I do with Hobbs is give her a bunch of 25-minute, maybe maybe 15 to 25-minute walks rather than a big long one. She loves the very long walks in the summertime, but in the wintertime it's just too cold for her. The other thing is, if there's her tiny little paws right there. Putting boots on the dogs are often very good because they can get salt and ice stuck between their paws. And I know that yesterday she does not like boots and paws. I have tried to put that on her. She does not. She will not let us do that. So she often gets ice sort of between her paws, which is really bad for her. So I usually end up carrying her home. But yeah, just keep in mind that this weekend, when I took a look at some of the forecasts and some of the models, it does have a lot of that cold air sweeping in behind of it because it's such a strong low. Monday, the early next week, going to be very, very, very cold. And for a little puppy like Hobbs, we're going to have to make sure that she may not even go out for walks. We may have to keep her inside just to make sure that she stays safe, because they won't tell you how cold it's getting, and they can actually get some injuries from the cold without us knowing. So just a reminder that if you do have pets, just keep that in mind. They will need a walk, but it may be one of those weekends where you have to keep them inside, or just keep them just give them the quick little run around the house or real quick runs outside. Kim?
Yeah, good advice. Mark, I'm wondering what's behind you. Is that a tube? Is it a floaty for a pool? What is happening? It looks like
you're gonna have to wait.
Okay,
Kim, you're gonna have to wait. I'll get into that one next, because this is awesome, but you're gonna have to wait on that one.
All right, good. You've had me glued now. Okay, I'm gonna find out what's happening. We're gonna go back to meteorologist Jacqueline Whittle talking a little bit about lake effect. We've been talking about lake effect all winter long, Jacqueline. We've certainly seen those big dumps of snow in places like Aurelia and in Owen Sound and Southampton. All of these areas have been hammered long before the GTA and Hamilton got any kind of real lake effect snow. So they're already on their piles of snow. But will this particular storm, this is what one of our viewers want to know, bring lake enhancement to the Hamilton area, to the GTA area, on top of the system snow that we're anticipating?
Excellent question. We're going to get into some meteorology, because the one thing, Kim, that we don't necessarily have with this second punch, which is on Sunday when we're getting the heaviest snow, is cold Arctic air. So when it comes to lake effect snow, you need some ingredients. You need a temperature difference between the lake and the upper level temperatures. And that difference needs to be a 13 degree Celsius different. That's when the magic can happen. So if your lake temperature is one temperature and your temperature is aloft or another, it has to be 13 degrees Celsius. Wind direction and alignment come into play. The fetch, the distance across the lake, the topography, like you mentioned, the Hamilton Mountain, sometimes we can see that there. And then we need deep layer moisture. We know we have lots of moisture, but what we don't necessarily have is that real temperature difference, the cold air aloft and the warm water, because as we know, it's been a very chilly pattern. So those lakes are starting to freeze up and becoming colder temperature. So we need that magic 13 degrees. But that's one part of it. I just want to show you, though, why I think that. Well, first of all, we've got the system. If I take a look at more of a zoomed out picture, okay, so let's say we're Saturday afternoon, and then I'm going to move that to kind of Sunday, 3 a.m. Okay, the bulk of there we go. That's what I want to show you. So I'm going to get my little drawing tool here. Let's pretend the center of low pressure is somewhere around there by that point. We've got a cold front down to the south. We've got a clearly defined warm front boundary. So it's all snow. There's my snowflake. North of that, and then there's ice down in this area, right? So that's where the warmer air is mixing in. Because that warmer air is mixing in, that's why we don't have that extreme Arctic air to make that magic happen. So it's unlikely that we're going to get much in the way of lake enhancement. We do have strong northeasterly winds that do have an opportunity to take advantage of the fetch of Lake Erie and the fetch of Lake Ontario, but it's really that warm air that's mixing in that probably squashes that chance of lake enhancement. And that's good, because we already got enough snow coming. So we don't need any more. We don't need the help from the lakes. We've got 15 to 30 centimeters of snowfall coming to the greater Toronto area potentially. And again, this is a multi-day event. Okay, so this is Saturday beginning, lighter snow Saturday, heavier snow on Sunday. And I want to bring this map into the fold too, because look at the temperatures. We actually start to kind of warm our temperatures when the warmer air gets closer to the lake. So we could be a little warmer for Sunday, but then look at that. I think Mark was just talking about this. You know, the cold Arctic air comes in by, you know, overnight Monday into Tuesday. We've got nearly -20s down in Windsor. This is before the wind chills. So early Tuesday morning, when everybody's coming back potentially from a holiday weekend, it is going to be cold down the 400 corridor. In cottage country, make sure you bring some very warm clothes to cottage country if you're headed that way. There's a -20 for Wednesday morning for Windsor. So yeah, very, very cold. And, you know, we just had these amounts, Kim, 26 centimeters in Toronto. For people that are just joining our stream, this could make the top 3 snowiest Februaries on record for Toronto after this storm, and then maybe even top 2 spot. Could we even get to the top 1 spot? We still have 14 more days to go. And like you've been saying, Kim, we haven't had a chance to melt any of the snow. It just keeps piling up.
Yep, it's not going to go anywhere with temperatures that cold, Jacqueline. When we come back, I have a couple of questions that you can look up. Will there be any break in the snow this weekend so that the plows can get out to work? And the second question will be this: is it possible that we'll see blizzard warnings with this storm? So I'll give you a couple of seconds or minutes to go look at your maps again, and so we can get real specific on these questions. But first, let's go to Victoria Fenn Alvarado, who has 3 things that you need to do to prepare for this upcoming storm.
More snow is on the way, Ontario. A friendly reminder that winter is not over yet, and this burst of snow is right in time for the Family Day long weekend.
This could be 3 to 5 centimeters per hour. The wind's starting to shift on the backside. That's going to really pick up. It's going to be blowing the snow around, but also starting those squalls again.
Flight SA975 has been delayed.
Catching a flight? Call the airline to confirm if there are any cancellations or delays before you head to the airport. Give yourself plenty of extra time so you don't miss your flight.
There's no secret to winter driving. Take your foot off that gas pedal, reduce your speed, and just take your time.
Traveling by car? The best answer is to avoid unnecessary travel.
I know many people don't realize how slippery it is until they hit the brakes and realize they need to stop, and they can't.
If you must head out, drive carefully. Snow and ice are sure to cause a slippery mess.
Stay in control. Don't panic. No aggressive steering, no aggressive braking. Let's get through this storm together. If you're involved in a collision, stay in your vehicle. That's the safest place for you. If you're blocking a live lane, please call 911 immediately, and we'll get resources out there to help you.
Once the snow has fallen, clear it as soon as you can. Otherwise, you may end up with snow as hard as concrete as the temperatures begin to cool down.
Okay, well, Mark Robinson hooked us in that last exchange that we had because I wanted to know why he has a tube on his vehicle. I know he's going to the cottage. I know that he's not going out on the lake with this, but I don't know what he's doing with it. So, Mark, why don't you enhance us? Let us know a little more about what you're going.
You know, we've been talking very somberly about this storm, and we're warning everybody, and it's, oh my goodness, yes, this is a storm. But we kind of forget that, you know, this is a long weekend. There's a fun side to these storms sometimes, and that's what this is all about. This is my snow tube. This is just an awesome thing, so much fun. And you know, it is the Family Day weekend. Get out there, you know, get out there and enjoy this snow, because we haven't had this kind of snow for quite a while. And so, like, I remember last year, I think we got a chance to use these tubes once, but this year we've already used them a few times, and we're going to be able to continue to use them for a while. So there is a fun side to this. There is an enjoyable side to this, and it isn't just for the storm chaser and me, because I do love, you know, weather and all that sort of stuff, but I also love throwing myself down hills. So far, I haven't managed to injure myself too badly. I did get a giant bruise down my one side when I hit the edge of the deck the other day. But other than that, you know, don't do what Mark does, but go and have fun. Go get out the toboggans, get out the crazy carpets, all that sort of stuff. Go skating. It's all part of the fun. I'll be taking these babies up to the cottage, and we're gonna, you know, have some fun because there's some big hills up there. So I just wanted to emphasize that, Kim, that yes, definitely going to be one of those things to watch for, but there is a fun side to winter because spring and summer is coming.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
Eventually, yes. You know what? You're right, because a lot of the kids had the day off with this last storm and with the snow day. They were taking advantage of it. Kids are the first ones to get out there on their sleds and toboggans. And of course, it's a great ski season. There's no lack of snow or cold temperatures if they need to make snow. Even in the hills that are not very far north, Mark, we've been, it's been a really good winter for winter enthusiasts. So thank you for highlighting that. And that looks like a great tube. I have to say, that looks like a ton of fun. So thank you for this. Have a great weekend up at the cottage. I'm sure we'll hear from you. I'm sure we'll see some videos of you just flying down a hill. Please don't get injured. I think I say that to you almost every time I talk to you. Please don't hurt yourself, Mark. We want you to be okay. So I'll let you go. Have fun. Pack up the car. Take the dog, and have a great weekend with your fam. I'm going to check back in now with Jacqueline, who's still here. And Jacqueline, I had those two questions that I wanted you to answer before we signed off. One of them is, will we get a break so that the plows can get out and do a little cleaning in between? That's question number one. Question number two is, do you think there will be some blizzard warnings? Of course, we don't issue warnings or watches here at the Weather Network, but we can let you know what kind of weather you're expecting. So take it away.
Okay, yes, keeping me on my toes, Kim, and I like it. Let's talk a little bit about the snowplow question first, because yes, there is going to be a slight lull in some of the heavier snowfall rates, and that's going to be likely into the overnight time period between Saturday and Sunday. So basically Saturday around noon, you can see right up and down the 401, it's going to be snowy. It's not going to be good. That's not going to be an easy time for plows. However, while we get into the evening hours, we can see a little bit lighter snow. So, give them lots of space out on the highways, of course. But yeah, it looks like, that's a time to kind of play catch up before the next punch comes, and that's on Sunday. That is going to be a day that you just want to stay off the roads. So this is now 4 or 5 a.m. on Sunday. You're going to be waking up to blizzard-like conditions. So the next question, that leads me into blizzards, because blizzards actually require a certain criteria to be deemed a blizzard, but that doesn't mean that things cannot feel blizzard-like, especially around the Great Lakes. So 6 a.m. Sunday is going to feel very blizzard-like, right up and down the 400, 401, 401 eastbound into Kingston, into Bancroft, where Mark Robinson is heading up to the cottage. Some of these side roads, you're going to have blowing and drifting happening, and it is going to feel blizzard-like. But for the folks that may have forgot what a blizzard actually is, here's the actual meteorology behind it. It's called the 444 rule, and it means winds sustained of 40 kilometers an hour or greater, visibility at 400 meters or less, and those conditions must persist for 4 or more hours. That's the rules. We don't make it up. That's just the rules from Environment Canada. So, and then there's other ingredients. Deep snowpack, ample snow on the ground can increase the threat for visibility, because as we know, if you've ever driven along Highway 26, say to Collingwood and Meaford, I've done that drive a million times off Lake Huron, you get the tops of these snowbanks being blown away from winds. So that can limit visibility. Limited obstructions. Rural areas experience greater visibility reduction compared to urban areas. High precipitation rates. We have a lot of these things in place, but what we don't necessarily have are those winds for 4 hours or more. We do have winds, but not 40 kilometers or greater for 4 hours at a time. So it's kind of like splitting hairs, because when you have this 50 to 30 plus centimeters in the GTA, 20 to 30 down the 401 corridor down to southern Ontario, regardless of what those winds will be, it's going to be nasty out on those roadways. So let's go Friday evening, winds are calm. We've got winds, maybe picking up by Saturday afternoon, 20 to 30 plus kilometers an hour, and then they kind of calm down again. Now we're into, pre-dawn Sunday. This is when our winds will be really picking up to at least 40 kilometers plus. You can see Toronto modeled to be close to 50, Godridge along Highway 21, 30s, 40 kilometers an hour winds, but then they subside rather quickly. Regardless, it's going to be a dangerous situation out on the roadways, Kim. We're looking at blowing and drifting snow, of course, temperatures that are going to be cold, and minus 20s over the next couple of days, Sunday into Monday, Monday into Tuesday. That's going to be really cold out on the roadways. If you're driving home from Family Day weekend, you know, just make sure you have all the emergency kits in the car. It's just going to be a nasty weekend weather-wise, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, long weekend in July, we usually don't have to worry about this kind of thing. Maybe a couple of thunderstorms.
Yes.
But when it's a long weekend in February, you don't know what you're going to get. And I think this does really force the family to stay together. Jacqueline, you can't really go anywhere. You can't go outside. You can't drive, and you shouldn't be driving. This is a big system, again, and of course, as we know, it's on top of a couple of other systems that just passed through. So there it is. There's our Colorado low moving across Ontario. Again, Saturday is the first day of snow. It's not going to be as intense as Sunday, so there's still time to prep. Now's the time to do it. Friday night, you take your Valentine out grocery shopping. You take them to gas up your car. You'll be ready for this, right? Maybe get a new game for the family. And then off this goes into Atlantic Canada. I'm going to go back to Jacqueline because one of our questions was about Atlantic Canada. We know that Newfoundland is already getting hit right now. Newfoundland, Labrador with heavy snow. We saw all of that ice that came to places like Halifax. The roads are very slippery. The sidewalks are slippery too. And obviously, they're concerned. I mean, the timing is a little bit later for Atlantic Canada. And through the weekend, I know we'll be live streaming and we'll be covering the storm for Atlantic Canada because it is moving through Ontario and Quebec first. But don't worry, our maritime friends will get a lot of attention in the next couple of days. But Jacqueline, let's just give them a little bit of a sneak preview of this storm as it heads their way.
Yeah, okay, great, Kim. I will do that because you're right. Like, we're focusing on the storm right now in Ontario and then Quebec because that's happening sooner, right? But this is all coming your way in Atlantic Canada. Let's just time it out for you. You can see this is Sunday, 10 a.m. The outer edges of the northeastern side of the storm moving into, say, Yarmouth. Starts with some snow. Not a great opportunity for heavy snow at this point because we transition to a mess. Those oranges that you see there on my map, that is the risk for ice pellets. Okay, so what it is saying is that winds are coming out of the southeast, drawing in a lot of moisture and warmer temperatures. Then we even see some pink here. That's indicative of freezing rain. So it's going to be a much messier and milder storm for areas from, say, Halifax south. But, and really even getting close to Fredericton, but north of Fredericton, a lot of heavy snow. So the Gaspé region, the lower north shore of Quebec, Bathurst, Fredericton, all looking at heavy snow. But then look at Charlottetown and Sydney, looking to mix out once again with warmer air, potential for freezing rain, ice pellets in the Maritimes. It's going to be a messy system. You mentioned Newfoundland, and they're going to be getting that sort of same kind of messy mix right into St. John's down to Trepassey. All of the rest of Newfoundland, after you just saw a whole lot of snow with the last system, Gander, Corner Brook, up through the northern peninsula, it's going to be snow. But we will keep you posted on the exact amounts of snow for Atlantic Canada, but we'll leave you with this. And I'll go back to Kim, and thank you everybody for joining us on the stream today. All the fabulous questions. You're keeping us on our toes. I like it. 20 to 40 centimeters coming to Metro Montreal, Kim. And of course, 15 to 30 plus for parts of the GTA.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough go. Can we squeeze in one more question before I let you go, Jacqueline? We'll do a real quick one because people want to know best travel time. People want to head to the ski hills, do their thing. When should they go?
Today.
Yeah.
Get out ahead of all of this because Saturday, leave now. No, the truth is, though, is that today is your day to get prepared, to get up to the cottage, to go wherever you're going, because once you get there, you should stay put. Saturday, it's not going to be the worst of the storm. Sunday will be worse, but I wouldn't recommend traveling Saturday. I would get out today if you can. That's your best day. And then on the backside of the system, despite the cold, Kim, Monday, on the holiday Monday, or even into Tuesday is going to be your best travel day after the storm is done.
Okay, great advice. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And people should have their weather app handy all weekend long, of course, to make sure your phone is charged. And hopefully you've got some kind of internet service, because the thing is, warnings are going to be put out on this storm. So whether it's a winter storm warning, snowfall warning, you'll see it on your cell phone. Certainly the Weather Network will have all the details. We'll have the hour to our forecast wherever you are. So make sure you have it if you haven't downloaded it yet. You do that today because it's in a storm like this that you're really going to need it. And we'll be covering, again, we'll have another live stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Chris Murphy will be hosting that. We'll be checking in with our reporters outside as well. And we'll continue to follow this storm as it progresses. So it's on its way now. It's still a little bit far out, but it's moving in again. Saturday morning, some light snow for southern Ontario. It gets more intense through the afternoon, a little bit of a lull through the overnight, and then Sunday, especially across southern Ontario, in the early morning hours to about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, it is going to be intense. Sunday is a day that you do not want to be on the roads if you can help it. And again, if you have to go anywhere, you have to do anything, do it sooner than later. Early Saturday better than late Saturday. Saturday certainly better than Sunday. It should all be cleared out, at least for southern Ontario, by Sunday night. But you won't want to be on the roads. Let the plows do their thing. Let them get out there before you do, so at least the roads are clear. And make sure that you know of any parking bans, that you're not parking on the streets where you shouldn't be. So again, the city workers can do their thing. And I'm hoping they're going to get some sleep because they haven't really had much time since they had to clear the last time. So again, Weather Network will be with you throughout this storm. Check in with us. Stay safe. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Family Day. I hope you have a great and safe weekend. Thanks for joining us.